This is the Fifth Estate winning headlines, your media police post. Brought to you by the Fort Hall School of Government, coming to you from Nairobi, Kenya. In this segment, we summarize some of the headlines that you might have missed this morning. But we also take a look at the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country. Today is the 22nd of May, 2020, and I am 2J.
I'm Tom.
And I am GK, and in case you missed the headlines, here they are. In the Daily Nation, major hitch in push for early referendum. In the Standard, curse of kingmakers. And in the Star, DP Ruto invades UHURU's backyard. And I want us to begin with UHURU's backyard. Where is it? And why is it being invaded?
Why is it being invaded? So according to the Star, the DP has moved into the Kikuyu constituency to invade the president's backyard. So I think it was maybe 2 days ago, he went in distributing donation bags marked with the Ruto Foundation. So I think it was an excellent PR experiment. He looked very stately, the bags looked well put together. However, in the article, they note that the government had said that all donations were to be challenged through the COVID-19 emergency fund and that nothing was supposed to go directly from citizen to citizen. So I don't know if they're criticizing the DP for doing that. However, they say that critics are questioning what the DP is doing, that he's daring Kenyatta in his own backyard, which I think is quite interesting. So I think the question begs, is this disrespectful? Should he refrain from going directly into the space of his boss?
Let me tell you, ini uchokozi the end. Because
okay, however, I didn't finish my sentence. Or is it politically smart for him to do so? Because I think it could be the, one side or two sides of the same coin.
Let me tell you. First he goes, did you see that shamba he went to? It's like acres and acres full of food, cabbage, name it, all banana plantations were there. And then the man goes, he goes in a truck and they have all manner of food packages inside that truck and he goes distributing food to very healthy local people.
Do you want people to eat cabbage only? Let them eat unga.
Let the
people eat unga.
Let me tell you,
the right thing.
He is being disrespectful. And he's being disrespectful because he knows it is the president's backyard. And he wants to choke at the president so that the president does what he wants. Does something, just wants to provoke some action from the president.
Last I checked, the deputy president is free to go wherever he wants
on
in
paper.
this country.
On paper.
In this country.
Okay, so I think the point
and if
is
they have been left alone by their leader, then let him step in and do what
and
he
I think
needs
the point is, regarding the last thing I said, I think this is a politically smart move, even a PR smart move. He looked very stately doing so. And if the only person who is coming to the ground to you to deliver bags is
to what end?
Of course we know to what end.
There are people
this is political capital.
He's not doing it out of the charity or goodwill of his heart.
It's Uchokozi, but you know what? I think he's preempting some action, and the system will sort it out before.
Oh man! You want the system to sort this out?
The system will sort
There's
this
a quote that goes, "Perception is real and the truth is not." So his perception on the ground is
exactly
pretty good right now.
Very good.
Right.
Well, we have a 3-part criteria that we use to break down the headlines. We ask ourselves, is it topical or speculative? Is it repetitive or groundbreaking? And is it thoughtful or just plain lazy?
I would say the Star has been on a roll this week.
Yes, I think it's quite a thoughtful headline. You're trying to see them stoke the fires a little bit with UHURU's backyard.
Just spoiling for a fight.
It's clever politics.
It is clever politics.
So let's park it. Let us move to the Daily Nation. In the Daily Nation, we are seeing that there's a major hitch in push for early referendum. And basically, the article outlines 4 major obstacles for the implementation of BBI, or things that are working against BBI. One of them, availability of funds. This hasn't been budgeted for in this financial year, but apparently there is room to do so in a supplementary budget, so that's not too much of an issue. 2, there's a legal framework. There's a lack of a legal framework to implement the initiative. 3, there's a battered or a less credible IEBC to carry out the referendum should it need to. And 4, time is running out. So the arguments in the article are, should the referendum be held on the day of the 2022 election? That has its issues, especially if you're trying to enact changes in governance structure moving forward. So there's a lot of debate here. But Raila is saying that while Corona is going on, BBI is still being worked on. They're the latter stages or advanced stages of drafting this document.
I don't think that any of these 4 things are necessarily obstacles.
And I always say where there's a political will, there will be a way.
It'll happen.
So they will create, owners of things will make it happen.
Most definitely.
So that was the nation. Shall we
Nation.
pack it or chuck it?
I think that one goes to the bin
Throw it.
very fast.
Immediately.
They tried.
Yeah, it's not a major hitch, not at all.
Okay,
Yeah,
so in the Standard.
The Standard.
Interesting.
The curse of kingmakers. And that's why that thing of him going to Kikuyu with cabbages or whatever it was, it will not work. But anyway, the thesis of that is
Shall I say what a kingmaker is first?
okay, sure. Go
Before
ahead.
you give your
Yeah,
hypothesis.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So a kingmaker is a person or group that has great influence on a royal or political succession without themselves being a viable candidate. Kingmakers use politics or political, monetary, religious, and military means to influence the succession.
Yes. Now, the Standard has gone back from Kenya's independence to date, and they've gone and said, "Oh, Jaramogi was a kingmaker. He propelled Jomo to the presidency." Then they've gone to Moi's presidency and said, "Oh, Jonjo was a kingmaker. He propelled Moi to the presidency, but was discarded by the system." Excuse me. He was discarded much later by the system.
Yeah.
Then they go to Mwai Kibaki, the kingmaker there was Raila Odinga. He was discarded by the system. And now they have come to William Ruto, the food giver in Kikuyu constituency. And he is being treated badly. And trust me, he will be discarded by the system. And I could be wrong. But let me tell you, this thing of being kingmaker and expecting so much from the king himself, like he owes you anything, is what actually brings down the kingmakers. And I want to read a quote from Machiavelli that the Standard has given, and allow me to read it. This is what he says. Machiavelli says that those who help you to ascend to power should be beheaded, and those who have not helped you should be rewarded and treated well. For he said, when people have helped you ascend to power, they imagine you owe them something. They become a nuisance to you all the time, expecting favors from you. Who is this person's best description?
Okay, now this is I have so many issues with the way that this article has been formulated. I don't disagree with the fact that kingmakers exist. I don't disagree with the fact that kings exist. I don't disagree with the fact that they use that Machiavellian quote. However, the people that they have attributed to being those kingmakers
is what I have an issue with as
completely
well.
wrong. In which universe is the DP a kingmaker?
I agree
Which
with
universe?
you there.
No, absolutely. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, let's cut him also some slack. He was the propelling force behind Uhuru Kenyatta.
Being a
in
propelling
2013.
force is different to being a kingmaker.
He was the propelling force behind Uhuru Kenyatta in 2017.
I beg to differ.
Give him that right.
Uhuru was king himself.
However, he's taken it upon himself, where this is Deputy President William Ruto, to decide for himself that he will be president in 2022. He doesn't want to be made president. He will make himself president. And I say, Sawa, you can go on with that, but let's see how far giving food into
I think if we go back to the definition that GK gave us, right? All of those things, the last thing it says is you don't necessarily have any political ambition yourself.
You don't have to
do you want her to read
yourself.
again? Do you want her to read again?
Fair enough.
I'm not going to read this again. You can rewind this or go back to it. But I do want to point this out. The article says that historians are categorical that Kenyatta had no constituency and no wider relevance until Odinga created it.
Who are those historians?
And then
Jomo had a constituency.
Let me finish.
Okay, go ahead.
It will surprise the present-day reader that the strongest resistance against Kenyatta came from the political class in his home base of Mount Kenya. So whatever Jomo went through, Uhuru is going through, like father, like son.
That is
but
true.
you will plod on, you will carry on, and everything will be okay.
You've ended nicely.
I have. I thought this was not going to end well. And it's the weekend, right? So who do we give our winning headline?
As much as I disagree with the curse of kingmakers,
it's a good one.
It's a fantastic headline. It is.
I think we give it to the Standard. Standard gets our winning headline.
Absolutely.
On to the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country, where we also have a 3-part criteria. We ask ourselves, is it humorous or dry? Is it satirical or pessimistic? And is it effective or just plain lazy?
Here you have Ndula.
Daily Nation.
Yes, Daily Nation. And you have caricature of someone, a drawing of someone driving a car, and we believe it's C.S. Magoha. And he's driving down a windy road somewhere that looks like a desert. And he's looking in the rear view mirror, and the rear view mirror is Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto in Jubilee pajamas, because it's at night, I believe. And the caption there is, what if laptop promise was honored? And I think that what he's trying to get at over here is what would have happened if laptops were delivered during 2013
as they were promised. Yeah.
But look, and they're trying to say pupils would be learning from home, right? But that's not necessarily true. I mean, how would they be learning without power, for goodness sake?
Oh my goodness.
How would they be learning without data? So what government had to do, and I believe, was to go get the schools connected, get homes connected, and then they can give them laptops. Because what would they be using now?
Well, listen, it's not over till it's over.
Precisely.
They're still trying to give the laptops to the children.
Yeah, with this cartoon, I forced myself to understand it.
Yeah.
So what this cartoon is saying is that Magoha has to keep driving even though the past has not helped his way forward.
Exactly.
I think it's pessimistic.
Shall we toss it?
I think toss it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is the Daily Nation.
Yes.
Let's look at Kaso of the Standard.
Is a drawing of COVID-19, and it's actually in a football stadium. It's about to take a penalty, and the football is Corona itself, and the goalpost has been covered by a mask.
Are you seeing how he's lifted his dress?
He lifted his dress, and I wonder how he'll walk because just skeleton. So the Grim Reaper is he's one jersey number 19, and his name is COVID, and he's going to kick Corona. And,
this is like weirdly. I don't know why I'm laughing.
Do you believe yourself? Like, did you think of like a lady taking a penalty with a dress?
Okay, so let me get us back on track. I think this cartoon is saying that death cannot score a goal against us because we're wearing masks. I think it's a combination of pessimistic but positive.
I think it's a rubbish cartoon.
Yeah,
let's toss it.
Not quite inspiring.
Let's move to the Star.
Also, you have a caricature of Kithure Kindiki. And he is, that's a guillotine, correct?
Yeah, it is.
And the blade, the Nasset blade is about to come down. But behind him is Edon Duale. And
scratching his head.
Scratching his head. He knows who's next. And then Kipchumba Murkomen and Mr. Egg himself, Denis Itumbi. And the caption there is, Wembe ni yule yule.
Oh, firstly, why has Itumbi become so important? He has no political constituents. He has, what is he in the conversation?
Of everyone that's drawn by this cartoonist that it resembles a cartoon is Itumbi himself. Is
My question is Kindiki holding the guillotine himself? Like he's about to let go of it?
Yeah.
Is that not his arm?
Yeah, that his ouster will have been his own doing. Because he didn't abide by his party.
These guys actually thought
position.
By taking on the president that they will not suffer the consequences.
The best is Duale behind there. And he's scratching his back like, am I next? Are you next? I think this should get our winning cartoon.
I agree. It's a great cartoon. Yeah.
There you have it. The Star gives us our winning cartoon. And what is our final thought?
And now, our final thought. It is inspired by Steve Jobs' Stanford commencement speech of 2005.
Fantastic. I wish I make it to Stanford one day.
In Jesus' name.
May I give a summary of the famous speeches we've done this week?
Please do.
On Monday, we looked at Abraham Lincoln's speech called A House Divided, where he famously said, a house divided against itself cannot stand. And he was not talking just about politics, but about the issue of slavery, where he put the facts quite plainly, that a government cannot endure to be half slavery and half free. It had to be one or the other. On Tuesday, we looked at Winston Churchill's speech, This Was Their Finest Hour, where he delivered it to the House of Commons in June 1940. An inspiring and motivating speech given to Britain during the World War II, reminding country of their patriotic duty and to brace themselves for what lay ahead, but ultimately reminding country that they were all in this together. He knew it was one thing to lose a battle, but the real war could be lost if people lost their sense of comradeship. On Wednesday, we looked at Kwame Nkrumah's speech, I Speak of Freedom, where his main idea was that the greatest contribution that Africa can make is by creating a political union which by its success could stand as an example to a divided world. Some argued that this was way too lofty and unrealistic, but inspirational nonetheless. On Thursday, we looked at Nelson Mandela, an ideal for which I am prepared to die for speech, in which he was making a statement from the dock in court in 1964, where he proclaimed that he was the first accused. The speech describes why the ANC decided to go beyond its previous use of constitutional methods of non-violence to form Umkhonto Ruto Wesizwe, the spear of the nation.
Oh.
And today we're in Stanford in 2005.
Yes. So I think we all know at this point who Steve Jobs is, the co-founder of Apple. And he's one of the most famous and successful entrepreneurs whose unique approaches to business and marketing have inspired a great deal of interest. So he was a very influential man in the field of technology, but from an academic standpoint, he was not overly educated. He was actually a college dropout. I believe we covered it on the Dropout series we did last year. So on the 12th of June 2005, he gave this commencement speech at Stanford University to the graduating class. And it's considered to be an extremely effective speech because it was emotional, inspiring, and simply structured. So during this speech to the new graduates, he tells several stories about love, loss, discovery, death, and adversity, all in an effort to encourage them as they step into this new season of their lives. And he uses his background and his upbringing to play upon the audience's emotions. So one thing I'll read from the speech, he says, "Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice." And most important, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to become. Everything else is secondary. And so the question is, what made this speech so special and so memorable? And I think it's three things. One, the speech was short. It lasted for just 15 minutes. And 15 minutes is enough time to spark a movement, to spark an emotion, to spark a feeling. So for example, TED, the people who give those conferences, the TED Talks, yes, they learned in their 30-year history that a 15 to 18 minute speech is the ideal time to deliver a powerful message without having your audience fall asleep. So for example, JFK inspired an entire nation with a 15-minute speech. The MLK speech, I think the last that he gave on racial inequality was 17 minutes long. So having it short and sweet is the key. Second, the speech had a very clear theme. And that theme resonated with anyone who seeks meaning in their lives and careers. And the simple theme was, do what you love. He says, your work is going to fill a large part of your life. The only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work. And the only way to do great work is to do what you love. If you haven't found it yet, keep looking. Don't settle. As with all matters of the heart, you'll know when you find it. And finally, the speech was just wrapped into three simple stories. And here at the Fifth Estate, at the Fort Hall School of Government, we really follow that rule of three. That if you have your message in three simple parts, it's memorable and it's effective and it's a good way to structure your message. And so the way he starts his speech, he says, today, I want to tell you three stories of my life. That's it. No big deal, just three stories. And those three stories are connecting the dots, love and loss, and death. So in connecting the dots, he talks about how when he dropped out of university, he went and picked up a calligraphy course just randomly. And he had no idea that it was going to be practical and useful in his life. But eventually he used this knowledge to create the typography styles that you have in the Macintosh.
The
fonts. The fonts, the typography, which was later copied in the PC. So he didn't know, as he was doing it, that it was going to be important. And he says, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only collect them looking backwards. You have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something, your gut, your destiny, life, karma, whatever. This approach has never let me down, and it has made all the difference in my life.
That is powerful.
Beautiful, beautiful. My takeaway there from this was the second story, and that was story of love and loss. He says he was very lucky to find what he really loved to do. Excuse me. And there's a man called Steve Wozniak, I believe that's his name, and he founded Apple with Steve Jobs. And they actually founded it in the garage of Steve Jobs' parents, just when he was about 20 years old. Now, they created a company that went on to be worth about $2 billion. And then they created its finest product, which was called the Macintosh computer. Now, boom, this guy gets fired. Imagine. From his own company he founded by the board of directors, the nerve they had. Now, in the next 5 years, Jobs still really loved to do what he loved to do. He loved to design computers. He loved being a creative. And then he went on to create a company called Next, and another one called Pixar. In fact, Pixar created a feature film, the first feature film in the world. It was called Toy Story.
The animated,
animated feature film. And next as well, the company he created after 5 years was actually bought out by Apple. And it is the technology that Next created that was at the heart of Apple Renaissance as a company. But it's something he said, a quote that I like to read about how he found his purpose. And he said that if he was not fired, if he did not go back to Apple, he would not have found the things that he found. He would not have achieved the things that he achieved.
Yeah.
And allow me to read. He says, I'm pretty sure none of this would have happened if I had not been fired from Apple. Sometimes life hits you in the head with a brick. Don't lose faith. If you haven't found it yet, keep looking. Don't settle. Keep looking until you find it. Don't settle.
Wow.
But there's also one thing he found when he created Pixar and Next.
Yes.
He found a wife.
Oh, wow.
So
That's a lovely story.
Tuem, what are you going to create
so that you can find a wife?
All right.
Well, I really loved that story, especially that second part, because the second part is successful because of its kairos. So kairos is a Greek word meaning God's opportune time. It's a critical moment. It's the right moment. And it's critical because he knows that the students he's talking to are going to face trials and tribulations. Some of them are going to fail. Some of them are going to lose everything. And some of them are going to work hard but fall even harder. And he uses this second story to help them know that they should still follow their dreams despite all the tribulations that they go to. So in the third part, he gives a story, his final story about death. And his battle with pancreatic cancer. So immediately after being diagnosed, the doctors told him that he had almost 3 to 6 months to live, and they tell him, get your affairs in order. Say all the things to your children that you won't be able to say when you're gone. Hours later, when they do the endoscopy, they find out that he has this rare form of pancreatic cancer that's actually curable. And so he says, this was the closest I've been to facing death, and I hope it's the closest I get for a few more decades. By making these statements to the audience, he assumes warrant. Now, warrant is a term for, he basically creates a relationship between himself and the audience. Right? And then he goes on to say about how life is short. He says, no one wants to die. Even people who want to go to heaven don't want to die to get there. And yet death is the destination we all share. No one has ever escaped it. And that is as it should be, because death is very likely the single best invention of life. It's life's change agent. It clears out the old to make way for the new. Right now, the new is you. But someday, not too long from now, you will gradually become the old and be cleared away.
Wow.
So he really tries to say, don't fear death. Use it as a chance to keep moving, keep moving forward, keep doing the things you love. He ends his speech with a famous phrase that we all know now, which is, stay hungry, stay foolish. And he tells the audience where he got this statement from. So there was a whole Earth catalog that he had when he was a child. And on the back cover of their final issue, they had these images of country roads, the type you would go hitchhiking in. And beneath it were the words, stay hungry, stay foolish. And this was their farewell message. And then he says, and I have always wished that for myself. And now as you graduate to begin anew, I wish that for you. Stay hungry, stay foolish.
Beautiful.
So I hope you enjoyed that. On a day where we had a winning cartoon from the Star and a winning headline from the Standard, I want to repeat this because I think it was so powerful. Your work is going to fill a large part of your life. And the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work. So have a great weekend.
Fantastic.
Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, but also find us on TV. We're on GoTV, Pan Free to Air, and StarTimes.